Hi, I'm Becky.
And I'm Lindsay, and today we're here talking all about growth. We've spoken about this a little bit in other podcasts, but a bit more in terms of like big ideas and you as a person growing. So we're going to dig deep in terms of business today, an actual business strategy, and how do you plan for and maintain long-term growth within your business. So Becky, what do we mean by the term long-term growth?
So long-term is, as it says on the tin, we look at that long-term end goal, that long-term where we need to be. We look at nurturing it. It doesn't stop us from looking at what the immediate fixes need to be, but that long-term strategy of where we need to go, what we need to do to ensure that we're at those financial places along the way happen so that we can keep up to date with it all.
And I think she just tipped in that little word there, calling financial, and it's that kind of little unsaid thing that nobody likes talking about, the money side of things. And we talk about the people, we talk about strategies, we talk about coaching and mentoring, but ultimately most of it actually comes down to the finances. So what would you say are the kind of the key things that you need to consider when thinking about long-term growth from a financial point of view?
You need to know your numbers. It's as simple as that. There is the phrase out there, which is cash is king.
Mm-hmm.
And cash is king. You need to know your numbers. You need to know where you're at in terms of your cash flow, what money you have there. So cash flow is that thing of that accessible money you have at that moment. Sometimes it's quite nice and you can go, I don't have to worry about anything. Yeah. And then other times you're going, where am I going with it? Especially when you're a startup, that cash flow is the hardest thing to manage. And that's where you are looking at those quick wins to ensure that you've always got that cash there. However, that's the trick, and that is the thing that can catch you out as a startup business.
Going for those quick wins all the time,
to
rather
keep
than
that
looking
cash
at
flow.
Yeah, the long-term growth.
Then you forget about the long-term growth, and that's where a lot of small businesses can really struggle and fall down at. So a lot of small businesses, I can't remember what the percentage is, but there is something out there about businesses failing in the first 3 years, 3 to 5 years. And one of the biggest reasons is because of cash. They're either growing too quickly, so they don't have the financials behind them, or they're not looking at that long-term end game and they're only looking at those quick wins. So they have no strategy in place, and then that impacts on things like your sales process, it impacts on your marketing, it impacts on your messaging, it impacts on everything.
And just on you as a person, because you're constantly firefighting, you're constantly after those quick wins, and you can't take that step back to allow yourself space to breathe and do the next planning, because you're constantly going yes to take on everything, and then you get overload with work pressure and everything.
And it's not just that, because your focus is in that area of being kind of needing to grasp that money, and you're not looking at actually that, my words aren't working today at all.
No, they're too
it's that area where you're that's necessity, and there's I want to say starvation. It's not starvation. You've got those.
It is that survival instinct of just kind of having to grasp at it to make sure it's there, isn't it?
But no, it's that abundance. Abundance. That's the word. So
it's a good word when it came.
Yes. So when you're in a mindset of abundance, things gravitate naturally towards you, because you haven't got that frantic, I need to get. And when you're starting up, if you're looking at just that cash flow, and don't get me wrong, you have to. But if you're looking, I need this, that feeling of abundance never passes on, which means you start struggling with sales, you start struggling with your messaging, you start struggling with that connection. And actually, you've got to sometimes go, yes, I need to make sure I can pay everything, but I've also got to wait for things to come in as well.
So would you say then, I'm going back to something we spoke about before, it's that idea of, it's the power of saying no at certain times to look at that bigger picture. So rather than just grappling at everything, is there moments where you have to say no because I'm waiting for the longer term rather than the short fix?
It depends on the situation. That's where I don't want to say yes or no on that, because it's all down to the individual place. It could be that actually what you do is you change something that you're doing, rather than like waiting for a service to be happening and then getting the money in, or having half up front, half at the end. How about, to help that cash flow, you look at bringing in a bigger upfront payment, or you look at all the other options. That when it comes to the finances, there are different things you can alter to increase that income, whether it be what you charge, how many people you're getting in, what your margins and your profit a bit side of is, what you can then reduce in terms of your operations outgoings, and all of that impacts on it all as well.
So all of this sounds like quite confusing jargon, and you go, where do I start with it all? Because if this isn't your field, this isn't your specialism, it is overwhelming. And it was.
Oh, God.
And this is
so overwhelming.
And this is something which now, like, I have my head around, but this one really has a head around, because you have to, and you have to learn it, and you have to do it. So I suppose the next question is, in terms of learning where to start to know what to look at for long-term growth, and like financially, which bit do you start with first out of all of those things? Which bit do you try and get your head around first that enables all the other pieces to fit in so that you can understand the big picture?
So when I first started out, this is where I buried my head in the sand because it scared the bejesus out of me. So I used to try and hide. And then when I started working with business coaches and looking at all that, this is the one thing we looked on.
Forced you to do it, yeah.
And I couldn't get my head around it. I still couldn't understand it. I think it took about 12 months of different people talking to me about it and using different things for it to suddenly go, oh, okay. And some of it's basic, and you list everything down that you've got coming in, that you know you've got coming in. But more importantly, before you do that, you have to list everything that you have going out. Because if you don't list and know what's going out, how do you know what you need to come in?
And I think when you're setting up a business, that's the first bit that people miss out. They miss out all those extra bits that go out of your own pocket that you don't add on through the business. Or, well, no, I've only got these outgoings, I've only got my rent and my utilities and this, and you go, so what about the 300 quid you spent last month on all of these other bits of sheet music, bits and that, bits that, they're all outgoings. And until you're having those really honest, open conversations and divvying up the difference between your money and work money when setting it up, and you can't get that clarity.
And when you're self-employed and freelancer, your money and business money is so difficult to manage. It's easy when you start to become a bit more of a structured within a company because you have that. But actually, as a freelancer, self-employed person, it's confusing and it's tricky and you don't know. And the easiest thing to do is to have a separate bank account. However, and there is a big however on that, it still doesn't ease it up, because you have loads of personal stuff that you can claim as business expenses, and all of that needs to be listed out so you know where you stand.
And so the other bit of advice, you don't have to do it yourself. If you're going to pay for something that's going to make your life easier, to make you be able to really focus on that long-term growth and financial stability, is you can't do it all on your own. And this is where some things you have to get the experts in to help you out.
Oh, yes.
And so, yeah, that's our other top tip. Don't be afraid to outsource this bit, especially when you're creating this business that's yours, you're so passionate about it. There are some things that you can outsource to other people to make things easier.
There are, but again, you've got
to understand it first.
But no, there's also a cost implication on that. There are some really simple things that you can do setting out as a business. There are free business bank accounts out there, lots of electronic online ones, Starling, Metal. There's another one beginning with Monzo. They're out there, they're really good. You can invoice people through them, so you're getting that money coming in. The likes of a bank account like Metal, you also get free accounting software. Now that is a game changer, whether you're in a structured organisation or a freelancer or sole trader. Look at all those options.
Yes, and some bank accounts will allow you a free business bank account for so long, and with that they'll offer training packages and advice to you to get you to understand it all as well. So it's really worth looking at the market of what you can get for free first to educate yourself to get it up.
And have those things in place. Spreadsheets are okay. Tax things are changing. The whole make tax digital is there. So you can still do it through that. But accountants will offer free advice as well. Talk to an accountant, find an accountant that works really well with you. We're lucky that we've got a very good accountant who understands us, understands our business, and is there to ask questions. So it's going out and finding those people. Get a business coach in. They will help you understand your finances, and they will ask you the questions that you don't ask yourself.
That you don't really want to answer, and you're going to put your head in the sand over.
They make you accountable for it, and they make you figure out the questions answers to things you didn't even know you needed to know, which changes your perspective and viewpoint on so much.
So in terms of long-term growth, you've got to address that subject that nobody wants to talk about, money, and how it works, to protect you, to protect the business, to break it down, to help inform the other decisions, because ultimately they're not two separate things. You've got to work it all together.
And you have to look at it as a plant is growing, it's nurturing it. You have to nurture that long-term growth. Yes, there are immediate things you have to do with the plant. Sometimes you have to prune it, you have to look after it, you have to give it an extra feed or an extra top-up. But you're looking at that whole long-term thing, and it's exactly the same.
So yeah, that's our money talk for today. Slightly different from us, but it's one of those subjects that people don't talk about. And so yeah, we brought money to the table today. Get in touch if you want to chat through anything, or have a catch up, or have a bit of coaching with us, and we'll see you soon. Take care.